Hi, everyone. I'm Paul with MadCap Software. Now, project checklists are one of my favorite things in Central. Maybe it's because I like to create to-do lists, and I always have things that I need to keep track of, especially when I'm working in Flare projects. There's just way more that I need to do than I can remember on my own. Everybody's got some kind of system that they're using to keep track of what they've done, what they still need to do. And Central has these checklists, which are really unique because they allow you to tie in to your Flare project files and make things so much easier. So I am going to go through showing you how to create checklists. There are project files checklists, which again, tie into your Flare project files, but you can also create generic checklists for anything you want to keep track of. And so I'll show you how to do those too. And then there are checklist templates, because chances are you're going to be creating a lot of checklists and they might just have the same columns, the same rows. And so you can create checklists to help save you a lot of time and work. And then I'll finish up with a couple of other things. So let's just get started. So before Central came along and had checklists, what I used to do is I would have this spreadsheet, and I would use that to keep track of everything that I would need, all the files that I needed to do something with in a Flare project. And so on the left side, I would type them out, one by one. And then across the top had all the columns, all the things I needed to keep track of. And that's what I did. But that was really kind of painful because every time a new release came around, I just had to retype all of the file names and didn't really have a good way to track, what path they were in my project. So that's why this feature is so cool for integrating with your Flare project files. So I'm going to go into Central and create a Flare project file checklist. So in Central, come over here to projects. Got lots of projects in here. I'm going to open this one. Let's say I want to keep track of some stuff I need to do here. And I'm going to come up here and select checklists. Now, this thing's completely empty. Going to create my first one and select this plus button up here. Now I give it a name. And this one is what I normally do when I'm creating a project files checklist. It's normally around a feature that I'm trying to keep track of all of my progress, all of the files that need to be changed. But there could be, it could be something else. Sometimes might do reorganization of things and create a checklist for that. But most of the time it's some sort of feature. So, or some end result that I want to get. Let's create one here called, because this project file that I have has a lot of e-learning course stuff in it. So let's just say I want to create a checklist for an online course. I'll just do that, online course. And now you select what kind of checklist that you want, project files or a generic one. And I want project files, so I'm just going to leave this selected. Now templates, we'll come back to this in a little while. Now I can also add a description down here. Checklist for my first online course, whatever helps you, okay? Because you might have multiple writers working, and so maybe a description is helpful for that. Let everybody know what's going on.
Hey, I'm going to interrupt this video just for a moment because I recorded this video on checklists some time ago, and since then we've added a very, very important field in here that I want to make sure that you see, and that is this branch field right here. So branching is a way to create variations of your project, and checklists work great with this because think about it. When you are creating a checklist for files that are in your project, well, those files are usually in some sort of state of development. You're just working on them. They're not ready for the public or your audience yet. And so what you can do is create branches. And so you might have a feature 1 branch, feature 2 branch, feature 3 branch. And each one of those feature branches will have differences in the files from your project. So for example, right here, it says master branch. Well, if you haven't created any branches, it's always going to say that. But I've created some, and I could select feature 1 right now. So maybe this checklist that I'm working on has to do with that feature. And I really want access to those files that are in development related to that feature. So I would have my checklist based on that branch. And after your checklist is created, you can go into the properties and make changes to that checklist. I would recommend not switching the branches back and forth when you're doing checklists because the statuses might get mixed up. So I recommend creating a separate checklist for each branch that you want to use. I also have some different videos on branching if you're brand new to it. So I'm going to put links to those in the description of this video, and you can check those out. Some of the videos are actually source control videos for Flare, but the concepts and things are really the same. It's just that the UI is different in Flare, and there are some things you can do in Flare that you can't do in Central. So you can go look at that series of videos on source control. And in the middle of that series are 3 or 4 videos on branching. And so you can check those out if you want to dive into more detail. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Now come over here to columns. And now you are just entering the columns, the names of the columns across the top, the things that you want to keep track of for these files. And what you do is you just click in here, and let's say that the first thing I want to make sure I do with each file is I want to make sure it's fully edited. So I'm going to click that, and I'll just press enter, and it adds it down here. Now I can just keep adding them like that. Now let's say that meta, I'll put that in there and press enter, because each topic that I create, maybe I want to put some metadata in there to help with search results. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this out. I'm going to just put in here some of the things that I use in my own project files checklist. Okay, so here's a lot more. Some of the other things that I will make sure that I do is put an index keyword in there. I don't usually, for most of my output, have indexes that I create for my PDFs. A couple of them I do, but I like to make sure I have index keywords in there to help boost search results. Then a search filter concept, I'll do that, put in concept keywords. Spell check, want to make sure each topic or snippet in there is, it's gone through spell check, that I haven't missed anything. And then I also do a text analysis. That's in your tools ribbon in Flare to make sure that, you know, the reading level is what I want. Make sure that it's in any of the TOCs that it should go into. Check and see if there's any micro content that I should create for it. CSH IDs, if I'm doing, you know, if it's relevant to context sensitive help, I might need to create an ID. And then finally, has it been reviewed? So these are some of the things, not all of the things, but a lot of the things that I will keep track of, and kind of in this order too. So I'm just going to click, actually, before I click save, now I need to go up here to rows, because I chose a project files checklist. Now I go select any of my of the files in my project, and they can be content files, things in the project organizer, even my main Flare project file, FLPRJ. Most of the time what I'm doing is selecting topics, but you can select any other files that you want. And what I like to do is deselect everything at first, because you might have a project like mine that has thousands of files in it, and you don't want to add all those files to your checklist, just certain things. So I begin by deselecting, and then I'll go into the content, which is what's in my Content Explorer. And I can just drill down and select whatever I want. If I want everything in a folder, I just select it at that level. And maybe I will just select certain things in some, okay? And I'm going to select, let's just select a few things in here, okay? Just to get a variety. In the real world, I have a lot more files than this. And so how do you decide what files to select? Well, that's up to you. So for example, when I have a new feature I need to document, some things are pretty obvious. I'll create a what's new topic, and that's got to be changed. And then there's usually some section that has in the Content Explorer where I've got topics that are specifically about that thing. But then I also have to, run through the Rolodex in my head and think about, okay, what are some of the other places that might be affected? So it's really up to you. And it's an ongoing thing. You might not get everything the first time around. I will create an initial checklist, and then later on, I'll come back into it and I'll add new files to it, or I'll take some out. But you just want to get started. So now you just click Save. And that area in here is replaced. All right, so now I've got my online course, and as I go, it's going to tell me the percentage done, and this graphic up here lets me know as well. And what I can do is come in here to Content, open that up, and it is going to show me the different files, the different folders and files. You just kind of keep drilling down until you get to that thing. All right, and so you can just kind of work your way from left to right. Let's say this one right here, course title. I'll just hover over it to see the full name of that topic. And as I'm working, I can then click in here and select and just click right on this thing to change the status. So you saw each time I clicked, it changed. So it starts out with an empty circle, and that just means to do. I got to do it. And if I click once, it's going to set it to in progress. If I select it again, that means finished. And select it again, and that is not applicable. All right. And you can also click this down arrow, and it will change all of this stuff. Or it doesn't change all this stuff. It gives you a menu where you can select it from here as well. So it's just your preference. Do you prefer to select it from the menu, or just kind of keep clicking until you get to the exact thing? So I could cut through, directly to the complete one by selecting it in here. All right. You can also select this right here, the 3 dots, to select the same option for everything in that column. So maybe I've gone through everything that's down here and I have finished it. And so I can select complete. And do you want to make this update? Yes. And everything in that column is marked as complete. All right, so you just kind of work through this stuff and set your statuses as you go. And as you scroll over to the right, you can see all of these things. You can also add notes in here. And what I like to do is I'll add notes. Say I get almost everything edited, but maybe I need to still update a couple of images, put a note to myself here so that I can come back to the checklist later. Here, I'll just write it, just type it in there, update images in here, so that later I come back and I go, I didn't finish this thing, what was left? And all right, there's my note for it. And you can see the graphic up top is changing as I'm completing work. And I can click this to go to just a different view, this bar graph right here. All right, so just different ways to see what's going on, and click back, and it just lets me know, the percentages. So a really nice thing. This is the checklist that the kind of checklist that I use most. And that's really as simple as it is. And if you want to then go and edit it, maybe you do want to add some more topics to it, you just click this button right here and you pick up where you left off, go into rows in here, and I can just go right back and I can select, yeah, I forgot, I want to do this one too. I want to add that, and it just updates your checklist. So makes it a whole lot easier. in addition to project files checklists, you can also just create generic checklists. And one of the things that I like to use this for is to create sort of an overall release checklist, a to-do checklist. That's probably the main thing I do, but you can do, pretty much anything that you want to keep track of. So let's go in and I'm going to show you that. All right, so you just start with the same steps to create a generic checklist. Click the plus button, give it a name, and I will just call this release to do. And so instead of project files checklist, we want to select generic list. And so let's just, for a description, all the stuff that needs to be done for the release. All right. And so now you just come in here, same as before, you add all of your columns that you want to, keep track of. And in this case, maybe you don't have to have a whole bunch of columns. You might just have one column or just a couple of columns. So for the release to-do list, actually, all I do is I'll just put like my name or somebody's name or completed or something like that. Okay, so I just have one. And then for rows, this is different from the other section, the other type of checklist where you select files from your project. Now you're just putting things in manually, just like you did with the columns. And so I might keep track of things like, new analytics key, need to do that. What else? I need to update URLs. So different things like that. And you can add notes as you go for these kind of entries. So I'll just fill this out with some more things in here. Okay, so I just went through and added some more. If you scroll, you can see fix bugs, update system requirements, update images, update video links, run analysis, test output. Those are just some types of things that you might do for a release to-do list. And click save. And it adds it over here on the left. So now you can just quickly go from one checklist to another. And it's the same kind of thing down here. You just go through and select, when you get things finished. All right. And I'll create mine in chronological order. So I just start at the top and work my way to the bottom. The other thing that I didn't mention before is you also have this toggle button to show charts or hide them. So you can click like that, and that might make it easier for you to get through your checklist, just work through them. And that at a certain point, you want to maybe turn on the graphics and see, the numbers behind it, how much you have complete. So very simple. That's how you create a generic checklist. Now, if you're going to be creating the same kinds of checklists over and over, it's a really good idea to create a template. And the easy way to do this actually is to first create a checklist that has the different elements that you want, and then just save that as a template. So let's check that out. All right, before I created this topics checklist, that's what I'm calling it, a topics checklist. It's a project files checklist, but I just have topics in here. And so maybe I want to save this as a template, so it has all the columns in here already. I don't have to, go and add them manually each time. So I'm going to click this Edit Checklist button, and now I can just select Save as Template. Click that. Now, there's also this Template Manager, so I can click that, and you can see that I actually already have some other templates on this license. That's the thing about templates, is they're available across the license. Doesn't have to be just for this particular project. So I saved this one right here, and I can give it a different name. That was the name of my checklist, but I saved it as a template. So I'm just going to call this topic checklist. All right, it's project files, and I can change the description for topic updates. Okay, so just something generic there, and you can see it has all the columns in there. So I am just going to save and close. All right, so now whenever I want to create a new topic checklist, let's just say that I want to create another online course. And so I'll just click create checklist, and I will just name this online course 2. Instead of going through the motions of selecting project files or generic list and then filling these things out, both of these things out, I'll come down here to templates and I will select topic checklist. And now I will go in and look, see, it's already got all my columns. I still have to come in here and select my rows because it's a project files checklist. And so it refreshes, every time. So I'm just going to select a couple of things and save. So it's a different checklist than the other one. And I didn't change that. I can change actually change the name here. So call it online course 2. Yeah, I missed that. Okay, so it's online course 2. It's got the same column headings, just different topics that are down here. And if I wanted to create one for the release to do, I could do that as well. I could save a generic checklist as a template as well. So just, you decide what are the kinds of checklists you're going to create over and over again, and just go ahead and create templates for those. Okay, one final thing that I want to talk about has to do with tasks, because Central, of course, lets you create tasks. It's got its own page. Tasks are more high level. So you create these things at the high level and you move them through this Kanban board of in progress or to do, in progress, completed. And then the checklists are just much more granular. It's all the little things you got to do. So sometimes what'll happen is you'll begin by creating a task first, the high level, and then you'll create whatever checklists or checklists, plural, that you need to go with that. And so what can be useful actually is to sort of connect the two, put a link to the checklist in your task. And so I'll show you what I did. So I got this online course checklist right here. I've selected it. All I need to do is come up here into the URL field and just copy that. That's going to open up that checklist right there. And so then I can come into tasks. Got a couple of task boards in here. One's called e-learning board, and I have a task called online course in here. It's just haven't really done much to this yet. And if I open this thing up, I can edit it in all kinds of ways. One thing that I can do down here in the description area, I can put, I like to put information about, who's the developer for this? Who's a QA person? Is there a Google Doc? All this stuff. But I might also put in the related checklist, just like that. And I paste this thing in here. And in order to make this thing linkable, I'll select it, click here, and just type it or just paste in the link. All right. So that makes it interactive. So now when anybody wants to know more about this particular task, this online course, they just open it up and they don't have to guess where the checklist is. They just click that and come in here, it'll let you copy the URL, paste it in, and you're right there at your checklist. So just a quick tip for you. All right, that's going to do it for this video. In this series, we will see you in the next video.